Hey, Skip.
Hello.
Thanks for
How are
doing
you?
this.
Yeah, no, thank you,
Yeah,
man.
I'm not bad. No, thanks for doing this. Really appreciate it. We're going to be talking about draft mentality, which I like the idea of. I'm going to sit here like a Buddha or some wise Buddha or something and get my
Let's,
mind into the right zone. Is that what we're talking about?
yes, in a very practical sense, yeah, exactly. But it has very, like we're a technical nerd at heart, so it's taking that sort of mentality and then actually making it practical. So not all
Sounds good.
frills and things.
So, so go on then. Tell everybody who you are, what you do, and go for it.
Yeah. Skip Wilson, CEO of Draft Media Partners. We started out as a SaaS, as draft ad technology, as a SaaS business. The idea was we built this planning tool that allowed an agency or client or whoever to be able to forecast campaigns and all of those things based off of, because we know what the average click-through rate should be by industry and all of that stuff. So it would allow you to forecast a campaign, and we launched with as a SaaS model, and then quickly realized that is the last thing agencies in the world need is another SaaS. So we very quickly became an ad fulfillment arm as well, and so that's still where we are today. Is very much mostly behind the scenes. I mean, for 70-ish% of our clients, they don't know that we actually exist, and they don't realize that they're working with us. And so yeah, that's where we are today. We're the nerds in the basement, making sure that the ads actually do the thing they're supposed to.
Yeah. So on the technical side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Which is the bit that marketers like to stay away from.
Yeah, which is exactly, and that's kind of where before going off on my own, I was the vice president of digital media for iHeartMedia, and then I was at Time Warner before that. And one of the things that I realized was that there would be these all the time. There would be this great $1 million campaign that has phenomenal creative and all of those things, but then when I would dig into the actual execution of the campaign, it's like they forgot to check the box that said, only deliver in these 40 zip codes or whatever, and then so it's all wasted money at that point, and it's all because of those little. So we focus in on those little nerdy things.
So easy to waste money on digital ads, isn't it? And Google surprisingly never tell you, do they, that you're wasting money?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because in their defense, that's the thing about a self-serve platform, right? It's very much like QuickBooks for accounting or anything else. It's which is why accountants usually don't love QuickBooks, is because you can easily it gives you enough rope to hang yourself.
It does, yes, absolutely. So the company's called Draft Media Partners. On the website, you talk about a draft mentality. What is this draft mentality? Explain it.
Yeah. So to sum it up in really a very short, cogent way, essentially, it's the idea that things can be improved. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. But when you take that to its logical conclusion, it has really a profound impact on everything. I mean, it's our idea behind every campaign. It's how we judge and tweak things internally, and it also has a profound impact in my personal life as well. I mean, that was where it began, was the idea that I wanted to play football, but I had never played football, hadn't even really seen a football game before, and I was like, but I wanted to do it, so I bought all these. I went to the library because that's how old I am. But I went to the library, got all these books on it, figured out what my 40 would have to be, what my 40 time and all of those other various ratios would need to be, and then started measuring myself against that, and that's eventually, through the idea of marked improvement, you can, I think, pretty much accomplish anything.
We're talking American football here, or soccer?
It would be American football. I'm not sure I could
you
run
need a book. You need a book to understand that. I watched it on TV over Christmas, and it's like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The rule books, I think, is just as long. But yeah, no, I can't run 90 minutes long. I don't think I could do. I don't think I could do the other football.
Nor me. So this idea of kind of like improving things constantly, does it ever reach an end? Do we ever get to a point where it's working well?
I know that. Well, so working well is very. So, as I mentioned, we started off as with a forecasting tool. I mean, that's actually where the name Draft came from, was dynamic response advertising forecast technology, which is a mouthful, so thus Draft. But we can predict, okay, here is the objective conversion rate this landing page should be getting, or if it's a radio campaign and you're reaching X number of listeners, here's how many people that should be driving. So all of those things can be predicted based on averages. And so you can, if your goal is to be better than average, yes, you absolutely can pass that. And that's a very objective standard. But there's no reason to stop there, right? Because I do think, if we're forecasting if we've got a campaign running and we forecast a 5 times ROAS or something like that, and it's only delivering a 4 times, then we know objectively something is broken in this system. Either the ads aren't getting the response rate they're supposed to, or the whatever we're sending them to, whether it's a landing page or phone call or whatever, isn't converting the way it's supposed to. So those are very objective things, and going in and tweaking those and making those better, you should always be able to pass average. And then much past average is where like magic become, that's where it does become, it's getting significantly above average. In other words, not everyone can be like Michael Phelps or like the fastest person in the world, or nobody can be Usain Bolt. There's some magic and genetics and things that are outside of control. But I do think that if the average person is running a 8-minute, or if an 8-minute mile is kind of your average marathon runner, I think everyone can get to that 8-minute. So in other words, everyone should be able to get better than average in a very objective sense. But then don't stop there. Keep constantly looking at ways to improve.
Because I was thinking the digital landscape moves quickly. It changes quickly. What worked last year or even 6 months ago might not work today. So are we building this into the equation as well?
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the biggest reasons why I don't think that a draft mentality ever stops. Because if it does, like let's say that we called a campaign done. So let's say we're executing a campaign and it's a roofing company, and we're getting them significantly above whatever the ROAS that was predicted was, the number of leads or whatever. We can't say, okay, good, we don't need to touch that campaign anymore, because there's algorithm changes, there's market changes, there's going to be a hailstorm that hits these 3 zip codes that they don't normally go to, but they could this time. Like, there's always things that could be tweaked and changed. And so I think always being on the lookout for what could be improved or changed prevents that problem of ever evolving digital landscape. Because that's where it gets people off guard. That when you hear people say things like, "Oh, well, we were doing meta ads and they were doing great, and then they just stopped working." There are a few times, there are sometimes massive changes to, I think it was 2018 when Facebook dropped a whole bunch of targeting categories and all of that. So sometimes there are things like that, but 9 times out of 10, it's actually a gradual process over time. It's Google slowly phasing out the cookie. It's those types of things. And so as long as you're monitoring and checking things, it actually doesn't change as fast as I think people feel like it changes.
Yeah. So does this concept work for enterprise as well as kind of smaller agile companies? Because an enterprise company might want to set in stone some sort of campaign for the next 6 months or even 12 months or something.
It very much does, because the only exception to that is if you truly are very high funnel, just going after some non-objective thing. In other words, sometimes you are running an awareness campaign for the sake of running a campaign or something like that. In that case, there's no improvement to be done. It's doing its thing, right?
Yeah.
But as long as your goal is some sort of objective increase in X thing, it absolutely applies on the enterprise level. As a matter of fact, usually larger companies, I think it's even more important because they're better able a lot of times to track and monitor those deeper metrics. In other words, using that roofer example, when it's a one location, one person running maybe 2 trucks, maybe he's got 2 crews or something like that, he or she has maybe two trucks or crews. they likely have just like a bare bones CRM. So we can give, hey, here's what your conversion rate of leads is, versus a roofing company that covers like half the country, where they're going to have much deeper metrics on conversions, how much of it's commercial, how much of it's residential. And so it becomes actually even easier to measure. And anytime something's easier to measure, you should always be looking for ways to improve those things, even within the quarter.
Yeah. Which kind of brings me on to measurement, because a lot of this is about measuring, isn't it? I mean, that's presumably the big thing you do. I mean, do you build a strategy right from the beginning on how we're going to measure this? I mean, how does it talk me through how it would work when you're talking to a client?
Yeah, well, it really, honestly, the process is the same, whether it's an ad campaign or, like I said, something personal you're trying to achieve. You have a goal, a thing you're trying to do. Then you back that up into what steps and what metrics need to happen to achieve that thing. And then it becomes a very objective, did we meet this? Did we meet that? And it's not just about goal setting either. It really is more about process setting. So in other words, in an ad campaign, to use that as an example, if we know that we need to generate a, say, 10% lift in sales or whatever, or if it's recruitment, if they need a 10% increase in hires, then we just work backwards from that goal. How many applicants are you guys hiring? Okay, well then that's how many applicants we get. Now that's a very objective number that we can optimize things towards, both whether it's direct mail, et cetera. And so then it becomes, all right, is of the tactics that work well for recruitment in this category, which of those things is better? And then once you know that a LinkedIn, and I'm just making up these numbers, I don't know every number off the top of my head, but let's say an average cost per click on LinkedIn is like $5 for recruitment in the healthcare space. Then it becomes a very objective. Are we better than $5 or not? If it's costing us more than $5 a click, that ad stinks. We need to tweak it or change it or those types of things. Because we throw around things like A/B testing all the time in the marketing world. And without an actual end or goal or result in mind that we're actually A/B testing towards. Like all the time that, because A/B testing was a buzzword, several years ago, and has sort of crept into the lexicon, it's absolutely something we should be doing.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's sort of done for its own sake. You'll see like a 12-month campaign with 6 different creatives because they're A/B testing. Well, if you're A/B testing for the entire campaign, that's not A/B testing. That's just running different creatives. For some platforms, the algorithm will do a lot of that optimization for you, but it still is a good idea to actively manage those things and then kill and tweak the underperformers, right? Like drop those things, and that works on an operational level too. If something's not meeting the objective standard, you tweak it, change it, or get rid of it.
Yeah. How do you get on with measuring on the client side? Because I know I talk to a lot of agencies, a lot of folk who kind of like, they might run organic social, they might run paid social, and like you mentioned, you might be running a campaign to try and get some extra hires or something. The goal is sat there somewhere in some HR software. Right. How do you work this out? Do you find it difficult getting access to that data on the client side?
Usually, no. I mean, very rare. I mean, sometimes, for example, we do some government. We have some government campaigns and things where there are, like the state of North Carolina, for example, has a hard no pixel rule on their websites and things. So sometimes there's those types of things. In that case, yeah, then it's like, okay, well, we can't optimize towards that. What else can we do? But unless there's a hard restriction like that, no. I find that people are very open as long as you're upfront about how you're going to use that information, why you need that information. Even large companies, even publicly traded, Fortune 100 companies are very open about things like margin and daily transactions and those types of things, as long as they know how you're going to use that information. And so as long as you get good about telling that story of, and then making it true of, here's how we use that info and here's why that's important. And without that, I can only measure towards some vanity metric. as long as you make that case, no, I think people are, for the most part, are open books.
Yeah. Is this a conversation you would have right at the beginning? Right at the beginning of the Yeah,
especially for a direct client. With Draft, we have sort of two types of clients. So we have our direct clients that we're working with directly, in which case that's one of the qualifying questions is, how well do you track things? Do you track things? And if they don't, and it's an easily solvable thing, then we'll help them with that. But if they don't and can't and those types of things, then that becomes that's one of the first conversations we always have, because that's the difference between someone who we know we can get good results versus someone who, we wouldn't have worked with Henry Ford with the whole 50% of our advertising works, but we don't know which half, right? We would have said, well,
yes.
Are you willing to change that? Because we could do this, and this, and then we could fix that. But if he had said no, we would have, we would have gone probably across the street. But on the agency side, when we're working behind the scenes of another agency, we just have less control over those conversations. So there are times where we have to run a campaign optimizing towards a vanity metric, but that's okay. Yeah. Then we just do really good on whatever that vanity metric is.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one, because it is one of the pain points when I talk to a lot of agencies, is trying to get that data at the other end. And a lot of agencies I talk to, they'll say, well, we need access to this, we need access to this. Just email us something, on a monthly or quarterly basis or something, and you don't get that data. And then the agency says, well, we can't prove to you that we're actually doing a great job.
So that is one of the things that nobody. My dad always used to say this thing it was meant as a joke, and it is, but it is also a truism. He used to say, nobody cares, right? You always want to keep in mind nobody cares. Even CMOs, even a very high level CMO, ultimately what they care about is their own personal stuff. I mean, it's true of us too, right? Like as much as I care about work and I love my job and I love my company and everything else, I care a lot more about family and those things. So ultimately, no one is going to stay up late tonight because they didn't export their CRM data and send it to you. And so with that in mind, you want to take as much of that off of the client as possible. And when I say client, in this case, I'm talking end client. So you want to automate those processes as much as you can. You want to build that into, as you're setting up campaigns, part of your process. You should there's really no excuse, in my opinion, for being 3 months into a campaign and the client going, what kind of results are we getting? And the agency's response being some version of, well, hey, you didn't send us the data. We could have optimized towards it. I mean, that's an excuse at that point, right? Because there's no reason why it couldn't have been automated or moved, or, hey, add us to your CRM and we'll take care of it for you. I think that's a process fix, I think, more than anything else.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to send it to you because they don't care, and they're going to forget.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. So how is AI helping in all of this, or hindering in all of this, or is it is it actually helping?
It is for us. I understand the fear of it amongst creatives and all of those things, but always exceptional creatives, I think, will be able to distinguish themselves, and so I think I wouldn't be too worried. If I was an A-level creative, whether it's images, words, whatever, you're safe for a long time. It's those B and C level folks, right? It's in the accounting world. It's the same folks that were knocked out by the TurboTaxes of the world, right? That didn't put Deloitte or some high level accounting firm out of business. That it's only the folks that weren't that good at accounting to begin with, or that sort of B and C level. And so I definitely think it's more, at least, and like I said, speaking from an ad person, from just the ad execution side, it's a huge help for us. It shortens processes. We're able to automate a lot of things that weren't previously automated. I mean, for example, we have a network of local. It's a white label one, so I can't name drop them. But we have a network of several local automotive service places. And automotive service folks are the worst. I mean, if you're talking about people bad at CRM, go to your local oil change place, because they're terrible about putting in wrong data, not putting in anything.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to export that data. So it now takes 15 minutes to program an AI bot to be able to, even though there's no API from their CRM, there's nothing else. You don't need it in these days because you can easily program an AI bot to go in, do the steps that you would do as a user, export it, send it to your other platform. You can automate almost anything. And also, too, in terms of execution, I mean, I mentioned our simulator tool. That's now 3 years old. It wasn't AI, it was machine learning, but that's not quite AI. But now we can set an AI on top of that so that you don't even have to plug any. Used to we would have to build the campaign, try a simulation, build another campaign, try a simulation, and now even that's automated. So we can say, hey, I've got a five market roofer, and they want X number of leads, and they've got X budget. Build the plan, and it can run those simulators, without us even having to touch it. So it's
I like it.
It's a game changer.
I was going to say I like the idea where you mentioned about the AI automating things for us, because I think we keep talking about AI in a generative text and image kind of way constantly, and it's very blah at that. It's very vanilla. I mean, if you asked, for example, OpenAI to come up with a logo for a sports shoe manufacturer, they wouldn't come up with a tick. Right. Like with Nike, it wouldn't come up with a tick. Right.
Exactly.
That's a creative person doing something. So do you see AI in general becoming more useful down the line away from the creative stuff, and more useful for actually saving us time by digging into a CRM or regurgitating some data somehow?
Yeah, absolutely. The generative stuff is amazing and is interesting, and I play around with that stuff. I mean, probably a lot more even than a normal person would. I do that. That's the kind of stuff I do instead of sleeping, right? It's just playing around with those things. but that is, I think, almost more the toy box level version of what really, I think, at least as of things are right now, that is, I think, one of the least useful applications for AI. I think automating processes is so much. We have one of our rules at Draft. It's actually on a little sticky note right here. Is that no process should take more than 30 minutes. That's something that we optimize everything towards, and that wouldn't have been possible, even when we started 3 years ago. That wouldn't have been possible. But now, no process. There's no reason for a process to take longer than 30 minutes. And if it does, we identify it, we build a process around it, that we automate that process, and that becomes the next thing on our hit list to automate. And because that is going to be that's the essential. We have 113 active clients, and we're a staff of 10. So that wouldn't be possible without having that sort of strict adherence. So we're probably on the hyper end of automating things, and it does cause some problems. Like every now and then, just this morning actually, we invoiced a client for a campaign. I'd sent him a thing saying, "Hey, we weren't going to invoice you for it." So sometimes there's those little hiccups, but then it's a simple, "Hey, oops, sorry about that," and those are a lot easier to handle. Those, I'll call them like oops-a-daisy scenarios. It's a lot easier to handle those than it is because that's the big fear with automating things, is that it's like, oh, well, then if we automate everything, how do we stop the machine? Sometimes it's just easier to send the client a being like, you're going to get an invoice. Sorry about that. Yeah. Don't pay it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. It's a control thing as well, isn't it? Where a lot of people like to stay in control of I know somebody who will not automate the sending of invoices because they want to look and check every invoice before it goes, and all they do is they look it, they check it, and they hit send, and they don't actually edit it or change any of them ever. And it just seems pointless.
Well, and that's where that goes to use the draft mentality. That's where I think having a sort of hyper humbleness, because the problem with over control is that is someone who believes they are better at invoices than an automated process or system would be, or having an employee do it, or having someone else do it. And that's probably not true. I mean, if that person's, unless that's their thing is data entry and invoicing, they're probably better at other stuff. And they probably aren't that, like, for me, I absolutely stink at that stuff. Like I all the time will. One of my graphic designers, she'll complain about it all the time. Is if a client requests like a headline change or something like that, I'll just go in and make that headline change. Inevitably, it breaks one of the sizes or makes it look bad, and she'll be like, "Please stop touching these please stop doing that." and that likely is the case for that person that insists on manual invoices. Is that it's that belief that, oh, I'm just so good. I mean, even if that's not the top level like feeling, right? They could be a super humble person on a very real sense, but deep down, that's what that is. That's I'm better. Nobody else knows this but like I do. I'm not going to teach anyone else, and that's a hindrance. That's a restriction for that business. They're not going to be able to scale as high as they could if they were willing to let go of that.
What percentage of Google ad spend and Facebook ad spend, right, digital ad spend, do you think's wasted?
At least, so I'm going to answer that in two ways. Very much, I think 70+% is wasted in that it could have been done better. I will say, I would much rather have someone do a medium to poor performing campaign, and as long as they use that data back that they get to make a better one, then I would say 0%. Like, so I would say, so in other words, because even think of A/B testing. If we're A/B testing a campaign, say we got a campaign and we're running 3 different versions of the creative, the reason you're doing that is you're assuming 2 of those 3 aren't going to be as good. So you could say you're wasting ad dollars on those 2 lower performing creatives. That's actually not the case. You're doing that so you learn which one's better. So that I would say anyway. So in a very real sense, I would say 70% of it's wasted because they're not doing true A/B testing. They're just running crappy campaigns and then never tweaking it.
Yeah.
But it could be 0% if it just took that one extra step of setting aside an appointment once a week or so to go in and be like, okay, well, this one's not working. Let's kill this. Let's do this better. It only takes a little bit of time to make that a 0% number.
Yeah. Just do you think they've made it too easy? Do you think it's too easy to advertise? Do you think?
Yeah, I do worry a lot of times. I mean, all the time we'll have a client, especially on the low end. There is a reason why Nike doesn't run their own ads, right? Like, there's a reason why those massive corporations don't do it themselves. I do worry a little bit that it's the people that have that $1,000 a month budget or $1,800 a month budget, and they decide to do it themselves. Those are the folks that I actually feel almost bad for, because they're gonna do a bad job of it, and they're the ones that really can't afford to waste any money.
Yeah.
And that's so. Yes, to answer your question, I do wish there was a slightly higher barrier to entry, because I see so much waste.
Yeah. Fascinating. Chat for ages on this, especially on ads and things, and generative AI, because I have this horrible nightmare of just like the AI just creating millions of ads and just firing. And we're living in Blade Runner, and it's my God.
Exactly.
I think that'd be quite cool for a while, but not forever. Sure.
Yeah, exactly. It's good for the ad folks, I guess. It
Absolutely.
Stinks for society. Yeah. It just stinks for the world at large, but for the ad folks.
Absolutely. So, Skip, where can we find you? Where's your website, social media bits?
Yeah, draftmediapartners.com or draftadvertising.com. Both those go to the same place. We merged with another company back in August, so we changed our name to Draft Media Partners. Draftmediapartners.com. If you go there, we'll do a free. We enter in your email address. We'll do a free marketing audit and all of that stuff for you. And yeah,
fantastic, brilliant. Skip, thanks ever so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.